Left.
Teaching a dog to turn left and right with precision and reliability on leash comes in handy in many small events all through life, such as deferring the
Right.
sidewalk to pedestrians,
Okay.
when you're moving through stores or events, or perhaps you're at the vet, going into and out of a house or a yard, and also when you need to redirect a dog on leash to walk in another direction. Teaching a dog to turn left and right or cross the street on cue is easy and fun. There's literally hundreds of opportunities to reinforce these behaviors and strengthen these cues daily. Usually, most people walk their dogs in the same general path each day, so this is a great way to capitalize on teaching your dog left and right turns on cue, as well as crossing the street on cue. Step 1. Using a food reward for left and right turns. When your dog is about 2 to 3 feet from making a well-defined left or right turn, such as at a corner or at the end of a fence line, make sure the way is clear and mark the behavior of turning left or right once the dog has its 2 front paws and about half their body around the corner. Use the word yes or mark with the clicker if that's your style to mark the first part of the turn, and then stride up to the dog and deliver the food reward.
Left.
Step 2. Marking for the whole turn. After 1 to 2 weeks of marking for the turns of left and right when the dog is halfway around the turn, mark or click as soon as the dog's back paws are fully around the corner and their whole body has made the turn. Now the marker word comes when the dog has fully completed the turn. Make sure you swiftly get to the dog's mouth and deliver a food reward. It's important to reward the dog with food for at least the first 30 days of this training for the left and right turns.
Smiley left. Right.
Fading the food and proofing the behavior of left and right turns.
Silas left. Stay.
After 30 to 45 days of using food as a reward, let the turn be the naturally occurring reinforcer. And if the dog looks for food, redirect the dog with cues such as get your smells or let's go as a cue to keep moving along and refocus the dog on walking or gathering scents. For new or novel turns, you'll want to use the food reinforcer for the dog, just to make sure that these new and novel turns are being generalized. After 60 days, or maybe even right away if you see the dog doing left and right turns easily and you've been doing lots of trials, you can proof the turns where there are no defined corners. These abrupt turns to the left or right without a corner or fence line are great for stepping off to the side and letting people or other dogs pass by, as well as avoiding things on the ground or going around objects like trash barrels. Adding in a stay or a wait once you're off to the side and allowing people to pass is a great secondary cue to issue after the turn. This sidewalk deferment is also a great way to issue some counter conditioning for the dog that's not necessarily reactive, but all dogs may need some remedial counter conditioning with objects moving within a few feet of them, as they may find the event somewhat hectic.
Silas right. Look. Yes. Stay. Yes. Good morning. Good morning. Okay.
Usually, dogs are very interested in crossing the street, as it is a well-defined point A to point B that predicts moving along and gathering new scents. So like a well-chosen turn that a dog might make with regularity, crossing the street has lots of naturally occurring reinforcers. The cross cue should be worked on at corners to start, as corners have a well-defined path, and the visual of a crosswalk also helps the dog stay in the lane. After you ask your dog for a wait or a stay at the corner, and the path is clear, release with the word cross. And then once your dog's 2 front paws are on the next curb or the sidewalk on the other side of the street, mark yes or click and reward with food.
Stay. Cross. Right. Morning.
Issue the cross cue at all corners for 2 or 3 weeks and reward with food. If you're teaching this to a puppy between 8 and 21 weeks or an adolescent dog, use a food reward for 60 to 90 days to really cement the behavior. After 2 or 3 weeks with an adult dog, you can stop using food and allow the naturally occurring reinforcers of a new path and new scents to be the reward for the dog to cross the street. If you're in a very hectic environment or a new environment, or perhaps it's an emergency and you're working at avoiding an oncoming event such as another dog or a prey sighting, use a food lure to motivate the dog to move along quickly across the street. Then mark yes and pay the dog when the dog's front paws get to the other side of the street. Proofing the cross cue with an abrupt issuance of the cross cue and crossing a street with an abrupt turn is also very effective, especially if you have a reactive dog or you need to avoid an oncoming event. Always make sure there is no oncoming traffic. Start looking both left and right at least 4 seconds before you want to issue a cross cue, then as long as the road is clear, issue the cross cue. Once the dog's 2 front paws are on the other side of the street, mark yes and issue a food reward. After 60 days of using a food reward for these abrupt street crossings, you can phase out the food and use the naturally occurring reinforcers of a new path and new sense to be the reward for the dog crossing the street abruptly.
Okay, cross. Left. Right. Yes. Okay. Touch. Yes.
After 90 to 100 days of issuing left and right turns, both well-defined and general turns, and issuing the cross cue for street crossings at corners and the abrupt street crossings, you can start to place the left or right cue in front of the cross cue for the abrupt street crossings. So the new cue would be left cross or right cross, and then you'd mark yes and pay with a food reward once you're across the street. Get a good solid history of left and right turns and cues for crossing the street. Unless you and your dog are doing these with 80 to 90% reliability very quickly, then you can start using the cue combos at any point you feel the behavior is occurring with extreme fluidity. Have fun with teaching your dog cues for cross the street and left and right turns for more reliable communications with your dog.
Okay, cross. Left. Right. Yes. Okay. Touch. Yes. Come on, you got it.
This has been a K9 Sun Media presentation.